Good evening, participants. This is Maria from Sociology Department, St. Joseph's College, Autonomous, Bengaluru. On behalf of our principal, Reverend Father Dr. Victor Lobo, Dr. Bering Lucas, Head of the Department of Sociology, Professor Anup Lal, Dean of Social Sciences, staff and students, I extend to each one of you a warm welcome to this webinar on A New World for Education Frontline Workers in India. It is also my privilege to extend a warm welcome to our today's eminent speaker, Honorable Dr. Venugopal K.R., Vice Chancellor, Bangalore University, Bengaluru. I also extend a warm welcome to our participants and students from different parts of the country. We have 404 registered participants. I thank all of you for this overwhelming response. I am sure each one of us will have new insights and learning from this webinar. Welcome once again and thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I consider it an honor and a privilege to introduce to you this evening our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Venugopal K.R. Dr. Venugopal is the Vice Chancellor of Bangalore University. He was the Principal of University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering for 15 years. Chairman, Department of Electronics and Communication, Computer Science Engineering, and Information Science Engineering in UVCE. He has an illustrious, distinguished, and brilliant academic career. With 11 degrees, including 2 PhDs, one in economics from Bangalore University, and another PhD in computer science and engineering from IIT Madras. He has served in UVCE and Bangalore University for over 40 years. He received his ME degree in Computer Science Engineering from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Communication from UVCE, and has also obtained degrees in Law, Journalism, Public Relations, Business Finance, Economics, Industrial Relations, and Communications. He was a postdoctoral research scholar and visiting professor at University of Southern California, USA. He has authored and edited 42 books in economics and computer science. These books are prescribed as textbooks and references in our country and abroad. The royalty from these books and his entire salary are donated to charitable educational institutions and spent on welfare of his students. He has published more than 900 papers in international conferences and journals, and has a Google Scholar citation H index of 32. He has filed 56 patents. He has established 2 engineering colleges and 2 schools in Bangalore. He has awarded PhDs to 25 students and informally guided more than 150 research scholars and supervised more than 700 postgraduate dissertations in computer science and engineering. He has organized 35 international conferences and more than 400 workshops, seminars, and symposiums in computer science and engineering in UVCE and Bangalore University. As a special officer, Government of Karnataka, he successfully restructured Bangalore University into 3 universities: Bangalore University, Bengaluru Central University, and Bengaluru North University. He has been instrumental in developing UVCE into an autonomous institution with a funding of more than 100 crores. He represented Bangalore University in cricket and athletics and was an active student representative in his early educational career. He is a recipient of more than 60 awards. He received IEEE Fellow and ACM Distinguished Educator Award from USA for his outstanding contributions to computer science and engineering, and is the first professor of Bangalore University to receive this highest academic award at the university level in this country. Dr. Venugopal received the Anna University National Award, National Hindi Scholarship Award, National Merit Scholarship Award, Kulapati Gold and Silver Medal Awards, ISTE Fellow Award, Indian Engineering Congress Excellence Award, Karnataka State Government Award for Book Writing, Uttar Pradesh State Government National Award, Kempe Gowda Award, Sri M. Vishweshwarya Award, IEEE Best Branch Counselor Award from New York, Rotary International Vocational Excellence Award, and Cognizant Technology Solutions Best Faculty for the outstanding performance in academics. After assuming the charge of Vice Chancellor of Bangalore University on 12th of June 2018, several reforms in examination, academic, administration, finance, development, and infrastructure works have been initiated. Some of them are digital evaluation, online availability of marks cards and degree certificates on National Academic Directory, faculty appointments, long pending promotions to teachers and non-teaching staff, online receipts and payments, solar power for the whole campus, establishment of bioparks, fruit gardens, and botanical gardens. He has developed infrastructure at the Ramanagara Postgraduate Center and established the Northeast Ladies Hostel, BDA Ladies Hostel, UVCE Boys Hostel, UVCE Mechanical Block, OBC Girls Hostel, Research Scholars Hostel, indoor and outdoor stadiums, and Kempe Gowda Research Center. He has developed joint infrastructure and research programs in collaboration with NAC, Central University of Karnataka, Gulbarga, Inter-University Yoga Center, UGC and Council of Architecture. 20 new courses have been started at UVCE and Bangalore University. His name appears in Who's Who in the World since 1995. Who's Who in America, 2,000 Scientists of the 20th Century, and 5,000 Personalities of the World. He is a social worker, philanthropist, wonderful achiever, researcher, inventor, inspirer, and a very simple and pleasant personality known for his dedication, charity, commitment, honesty, and sincerity. He has been a leading beacon light and a role model for teachers and students of this world. Above all, he is my very, very good friend. Sir, it is indeed an honor that you have accepted our invitation. May I request Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Venugopal to proceed with this talk on online preparedness, a new world for education frontline workers in India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Viren, for that long introduction. And I thank all the viewers, audience on YouTube, as well as people elsewhere in Bangalore University who have logged in to this program. I am actually honored to deliver this talk for two reasons. One, Perrine will be retiring on 30th June 2020. She is my classmate, and or I can tell I am her classmate in industrial relations at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. I'm also her neighbor next door for about 7 years. And we were both class representatives at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. So it is in our honor that I said that whenever you want, I'll be coming and delivering the address at St. Joseph's College. The second reason, I'm a Josephite. I studied in St. Joseph's Indian High School, St. Joseph's High School. Then my PUC was in St. Joseph's College. I was the president of St. Joseph's College PUC section. And I represented pre-university in cricket and athletics from St. Joseph's College. And so I am very happy to be here to meet all my friends and fraternity, this alma mater. When Perrine spoke to me after a long time, maybe after 2-3 years she has spoken to me, then she suddenly came up with an idea that, okay, I should talk. And you know, I keep talking. I have kept talking for the last 40 years as a teacher in the Department of Computer Science, University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering. And teaching is my profession. And being in the field of education for more than 4 decades, I thought it is my duty to enlighten all those teaching fraternity to tell them as to what they will be facing in years to come from now. I would like to just present a small biodata of mine which will show the number of books which are there on the website. I think I can share the screen. So if you see the screen, you'll be seeing on the website of mine the degrees which I got from various universities. And just to give you a glimpse, these are the books which I have published, and the books look like a stamp. On my first page of 500 pages biodata considers this as my first page. It shows that 72 books, 42 authored, and 30 edited books there. And I am very privileged and very happy to share it with you that a teacher can achieve. And teacher will be a model for everyone to follow in the society. If what Perrine has given, my biodata with the number of degrees, if you see there on the slide, PhD Computer Science, PhD Economics, ME Computer Science, MA Economics, Master of Business Finance, Law, Electronics, Communication, Journalism, Industrial Relation and Public Relation. And I and Perrine were classmates at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in Industrial Relation and Public Relation. So I'm very happy today to be here at St. Joseph's College to deliver this lecture. And one of my favorite things, which I always tell and try to inspire my teachers and my fraternity, that the highest award in computer science from New York, I was elevated to IEEE Fellow for contributions to computer science and electrical engineering education. And again, another award from USA for serving for more than 4 decades in teaching computer science and engineering to the students of Vishweshwaraya College of Engineering. With this,
Sir,
I will switch on to the most important thing, which I always like to tell most of the teachers and students when I start my classes or tell something to my students and teachers. The first and foremost thing which I have followed in my life and which I want the teachers to follow in their life for the career is we have to follow this 7 golden principles. The 7 golden principles will keep you happy, healthy, and you will live a worthy life, a long life, and a successful life. I still practice yoga that keeps your body healthy. You have to practice yoga for 1 hour a day. It is not sufficient. If you just keep your body healthy, your mind should be healthy. You should practice meditation for 15 to 30 minutes a day. Your lungs should be strengthened. You know this corona is a lungs infection disease. You must strengthen your lungs with 10 minutes to 20 minutes of pranayama. You should walk for 1 hour to keep your heart healthy. You must take simple food for your stomach and intestines to be in good condition. You must sleep well. Einstein slept for 10 hours a day. Vishweshwaraya slept for 8 hours a day. They lived long. Sleep is essential for every body and mind and soul to be intact for a long time to come. You must have good thoughts for the soul. The body, mind, and soul should converge, and that convergence will help you to lead a happy, healthy, and worthy life. I always tell my students and teachers, you should shy away from this five undesirable. You should not use alcohol, you should not use tobacco, no drugs, no coffee, no tea. Why I am trying to tell this, I am trying to make a point with you that these are very important in life, because if you are healthy, you will be also a good teacher. So far I have not said anything as to how you should be a good teacher or what are the characteristics which you should emulate and embody so that you will become a successful teacher.
Venu,
Yeah.
can you switch off one device because there's an echo?
Yeah, why? It is troubling?
There's an echo. An echo is there. Is it okay?
Okay, I can switch off if you are.
Yeah.
I will switch off. It's okay now?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Because what I thought was I wanted to see what I am telling on the other screen so that I want to see what the audience are seeing when I am telling. That's the reason why I keep
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I always tell my younger students, my younger teachers, that they should follow these principles meticulously in their life. I am 65 years old now. I have not taken even a single day holiday in my last 56 years. Touchwood, I should say touchwood. That comes because of these 7 golden principles. That comes because of these 5 undesirable habits which I have never touched: alcohol, tobacco, drugs, coffee, and tea. Now, you are seeing the world in the last 6 months. The pandemic broke out in Wuhan in December. The World Health Organization has declared that this pandemic is going to be there for some more time. It has changed our life. It has changed our way of living. It has changed our habits. And more than everything, it has changed the way teachers are going to deliver educational content to the students in years to come from now. You all know that information is available on the internet. Information is available on the internet, but you require a teacher to transform that internet in information to knowledge. We require an educational institution. We require teachers to transform this information to knowledge among our students. It's not sufficient that if you have knowledge, you must imbibe, you must develop the students into a holistic personality through information, education, knowledge, skill, and innovation. That are the stepping stones for the career. I always tell my students and teachers how you have to transform the students who are so young and naive to a mature, holistic personality when they are about 20 to 22 years old. So the fundamental principle is information, education, knowledge, skill, innovation, and that leads to a successful career. It is the duty of every teacher to transform or perform this, what I can say, activities to make a holistic individual. Google, internet, all these are available to provide you information. In fact, Nalanda and Takshashila were the first universities in the world. Nalanda had 90 lakh books. Information was available there. But when the library was destroyed, the library was in flames for 6 months. We lost all information. But that is not the case now. In Nalanda, there were 2,000 teachers and 10,000 students across the world who had come to study various subjects. But things have changed over this 1,000 years. Now we are in the age of online exam, open book exam, on-demand exam, online results, and this is the way of life which you're going to see in the field of education from now on. Somebody asked me, who brought online education to this country? UGC, MHRD, and somebody said the COVID-19 introduced online education in this country and in the entire world. When I said that now online education has been the order of the day, how do you make it efficient? How do you make it useful to the students? I've been taking online classes in the last 3 months. It takes triple the time for me to take the same amount to cover the same amount of syllabus. If I want to cover the syllabus and make it very effective on online, it takes more time. But the brighter side is that students have been telling me that they are more focused, it is less expensive, and the commuting costs have come down. The world is moving towards online education. The world is moving towards virtual education. And did we not see this earlier? Ekalavya had a virtual teacher, Dronacharya. The physical teacher for Arjuna was Dronacharya. But in the virtual class and the physical class, it was Ekalavya who excelled. Ekalavya was far better than Arjuna. Therefore, virtual classroom is going to do a lot of good to all those good students, serious students. I always used to tell in a lighter vein, this online education makes a good teacher excellent and a good student excellent, and a bad teacher and a bad student will actually deteriorate. That's the disadvantage of online education. But we do not have an alternative at this point of time. A pandemic like this has forced us to take alternate routes to impart education to the society. But the brighter part is, now we can talk to the entire world on online platforms. We have been able to get experts across the world into our classrooms. That is the paradigm shift that has taken place in this country and across the world. It is a gigantic task for us to transform this country with a huge population of 130 crores from offline regular classes to online classes, because we are going to face problems like internet connectivity and also economic feasibility for those underprivileged. We have to look into these aspects. But that doesn't mean we should shy away from online education. That is the order of the day. That is how we will be able to compete globally. In one of the books, a famous book titled Outliers. In that book, they have illustrated, they have brought about the achievements of a number of successful people like Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Thomas Alva Edison, Einstein. So, in that book, the core aspect is that when you put 10,000 hours of serious effort in any aspect, it may be in dancing, it may be in singing, it may be in sports, you will be able to achieve your desired goal. You will be able to achieve your dream. How was it possible for all those great people to achieve it? They never had a degree. Thomas Alva Edison did not have a degree. Bill Gates did not have a degree. Zuckerberg did not have a degree. Einstein was not considered good for teaching. Steve Jobs did not have a degree. They had knowledge and skill. This is the duty of the teachers to impart this knowledge and skill. And knowledge and skill does not come, it does not get into a person just overnight. It is through experience. It is through practice. It is through dedicated effort. So you have to practice. You have to be dedicated. You have to be committed. And it is not possible to have any shortcut effort to achieve this dream of becoming a good teacher. I don't recommend online teaching for the entire semester. There should be what you call flip classrooms. You have to learn at home. You have to come to the college and discuss. The teachers have to solve the problems in the class. The basic information has to be understood at home through various informative resources. That's the type of education which we have to emulate in years to come from now. When Thomas Alva Edison was asked, what did you learn from this invention of filament lamp? He said, I've learned how a lamp will not work in 10,000 different ways. He said, failure is a stepping stone to success. Failure is a part of success. It is not opposite to success. It is opposite to success. APPOSIT. It is not opposite to success. So you should never fall back when you fail. I failed a number of times in number of fields in my life, but I have been successful too. It is not just there is one thing for to tell that you are successful in life. There are 100 different things for you to finally say whether you have succeeded in life or not. You study, you get a degree. You get a good job. You buy a car. You build a house. You have wife and children. You serve the society. There are 100 different things to measure success in your life. So you have to have those 100 points in your life. You may be successful in some, you may have failures, but I am very sure that hard work, honesty, humility, dedication, commitment will lead you to surely a successful career. I've been delivering this lecture from my staff room, where I've been there for the last 40 years in University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering. I've gone through many ups and downs in my life, but I have never got frustrated. That is what you have to teach those students. When the students come come into the class, you are still 18 to 22. Most of our students whom we interact are 18 to 22. Their mind is not stable at that time. It is most distractive, and it is for us to make them stable and build them into a useful personality. Einstein always said, I have no special talent. I only follow curiosity. And that made him different. That made him unique. That made him one of the best teachers. That made him the best researcher in the world. He said, perseverance is priceless. He said that I am not very smart, but I stay with problems a little longer. You have to make mistakes. If you don't make a mistake, that means you never tried to know anything. And he slept for more than 10 hours a day. That's what I told you in the beginning, that you should sleep. The more you sleep, the better your analytical skill, and whatever you want to dream or achieve, you will be able to achieve that. So my dear teachers, my dear students, sleep well. I still not asked you to study. I still not asked you to do any other activity, even for those teachers whom I am addressing now. I am asking you to sleep well. No jealousy and no harm. This should not be in your mind. Because I said, good thoughts, a good soul, a meditation in conjunction with meditation and yoga, you'll lead a very successful life. That's what I did throughout my life. When Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of America, he was a writer, he was a printer, he was a politician, he was a statesman, he was a philosopher, he was a problem-solving person, he was a scientist. He said, tell me, I forget. Teach me, I remember. Involve me, I learn. This is what you have to do with the children. Do not shirk away from your responsibility. Involve them. I take classes even now for 2 hours continuously without a break. I teach my students in the form of a story, in the form of an example, in the form of a case study. And in these 2 hours, the students are glued to me as to how I am going to broach that subject through illustrations, through demonstrations, through case studies, through examples, through jokes, through humor, and all aspects will be interwoven in these 2 hours of my class. And they still feel they don't go to the class. And you know, the last part of my program is 10 minutes for the students, where 5 students will be able to do anything for 2 minutes each. And in these 2 minutes, they can sing, they can dance, they can crack a joke, they can tell anything they want. And you know, the students will be waiting for that last 10 minutes with a happy ending. And I have been doing this for the last 40 years. I never failed a student in these 40 years. Probably the students are very good because students of computer science cannot get a seat in your UVC with less than 95%. So I've been fortunate. But even that last 1 or 2 students should not fail. That's what I have done throughout my life in this 41 years. My dear teachers, people have been advocating that there should not be exams. People have been advocating, okay, some people have been advocating that there should be exams. Now, how do you train them? If you tell that there are no exams, now the students will not be serious. If you tell them there is exam, some students are skeptical, okay, saying that why should you have examinations in such a condition where it does not permit you to have examinations in such a non-conducive atmosphere. But my take is that you must have examination. You must have examination in some form. If you do not have examination in some form, it will be deteriorating. It will be the standard of education will be deteriorating, and we will be responsible for it. The students may feel for a time, they might feel for a time this thing that they will be very happy, but they will suffer throughout their life. That's what I try to always tell my student, that there should be examination, and examination should be in some form or the other form. I always said that students, we can conduct examination in different forms, and I would like to share this. Different methodologies to evaluate the final examination for both UG and PG. To conduct examination online with the use of notebook, notepad, and upload to the server. To write the answers in answer script and scan the answer script and upload to a server. To take multiple choice question online and the results can be announced immediately. This examination can be taken at home with virtual supervision. You can also take examination, can be taken at centers with physical supervision. Students can go to an examination center near the house and follow the same about three methods. Your physical supervision will be there with camera. The fourth one, we can conduct examination online with use of notebook and upload to a server. Write answers in answer scripts and scan the answer script, upload to a server. And sixth and seventh, and the seventh one, students can take examination at their respective college. If you are not able to do any one of this, then you can always allocate marks based on the average. But I'm very sure the seven possibilities give a wide range of choice to all those educationists to conduct the exam. For education for non-final year students, you allow the students to go to higher semester or full or carry-over basis. The examination can be conducted in 2020-21. You can add tools of this for conducting online exam, ProctorU, AON, Jnanasetu, AirPro, School Guru, Meti, GitHub, and HackerRank. There are so many tools in this world to conduct examination online. But you must make use of these tools, because unless you find an better alternative, it is better always students to take exam. This thing is, how do you grade the students? How do you grade the students? I do not want to fail anybody. I want the students to get 70. I never failed a student. My minimum marks is 70. But when I give 95, when I give 100, they have to take some form of examination. Suggestion is that the students should take at least, in the worst case, the students should take at least the multiple choice question examination online, and from that we will be able to grade them between 70 to 100 marks. Now, when you come and talk about what type of teaching, what type of education will come from now on post-COVID, and the pedagogy will be different from what we had seen till now. Cambridge University has already introduced 30% of their syllabus has to be covered by online. Recently, the New York University conducted the examinations online through, subject to examination was conducted online through ProctorU. So it is amazing that we should follow those principles and still not wait for archaic methods of teaching and evaluation. I tried to address these erudite scholars and teachers. We have been in the forefront. No country can prosper without good teachers. Teaching and education is the backbone of the country's development. And if there are no good teachers and if there is no good educational system, then the country is doomed. We have been doing well. We were the leaders in education some 1,000 years back. But now we are looking towards others for guidance and for their guidance and for their what is called inputs. So we should get up and rise to the occasion and be globally competitive by introducing the most competitive techniques in the field of education, both for teaching as well as evaluation. One of the things, what will you see? What will be the type of technology which you are going to see? The technology is that there will be Google Lens. From Google Lens, you can just by a wink of an eye, you can open a website and information is available. Anybody can take an exam just by opening through Google Lens, just wear a glass and you can scan the entire web. That's why the UGC has come with open book exam. You can give material, but you have to develop the knowledge and skill, and you must have the analytical power. Now, you know, the second type of technique which has been developed is BrainNet. Anybody can, through BrainNet, can even upload their emotions to their internet. So what type of education you are going to give? The education which you are going to give will be different from whatever has been given till now. So, my dear teachers, prepare for the technology. Do not, if you fall back, you have to compete with the technology. If you fall back, you will not be able to achieve anything. Now we require only one virtual teacher, the teacher who can teach the entire world. So a good teacher survives. A bad teacher will not find a job in teaching in years to come from now. So what are all the other things which you will be seeing, the change in your life when you have to teach students not just what is in the textbook. You must be able to teach uniquely. You must be able to teach differently. You must be able to tell them what they don't find in the textbook. What they don't find, that is your experience. Experience transforms information to knowledge. And that's what you should practice in your life. The techniques of artificial learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, data analytics, all this are already in practice, which will be used to develop the furtherance of educational system in this world. Many teachers have a stellar performance throughout their life. They teach for 50 years. Their stellar performance is, through their performance, thousands of students have been benefited. But what about the others? What about the other this thing? This is a very small percentage. Okay, it might be from NIT, it might be from MIT, it might be from Stanford. But what is that which you are going to, how are you going to transform the vast majority of them who are not interested in acquiring knowledge or skill? It is there where the teacher has to step in. It is there where the teacher has to make a difference. That's what you have to, I always used to, that's what you have to, train your mind, and you have to do, I can say what you can say, skilling, reskilling and unskilling. That means you have to come out of the shackles of the old system, which you are already bound to, and taking the old torn book which is almost yellowish in color, and that type of thing will never help you in life. So you have to work hard. A teacher has to get trained continuously. You have to learn, relearn and unlearn. Unlearn the old ones, relearn the new ones, and there should be a lifelong learning practice with a teacher. There should be continuous learning. That's what I have done throughout my life. I started with basic economics, electronics. I started teaching electronic media. I've taught law. I've taught now computer science. I've taught the highest subject, the subjects which are the most tough for the PhD students now, and I've been training the PhD student. My lifetime in this 41 years is the lifelong learning. It is continuous learning. I've been able to unskill and reskill throughout my life, and so therefore I've been able to deliver. When I come to these online classes, students feel very happy. They have been telling me that I have been doing much better through online classes than in the class, and that I feel so very happy. Even though I spend more time than when I was teaching in regular classes, I feel very honored when I hear that type of feedback from my students. My dear students, my dear teachers, what is that which you have to learn in your life? The first thing in your life is that you have to be good. The first thing is, teachers always give. What is that giving? I remember Mr. Churchill, he said, you make a living by what you earn, you make a life by what you give. And the first and the foremost thing is that when you are helpless, the other person is begging. So the first thing is when somebody begs, you give. You give a very small and you don't still worry about what you are given. If you have 1 rupee, you get 25 paisa for a beggar, and that is the first aspect. The second one is help. You are little, you expect something from others, and therefore you tell, if I help this person, it will be useful to me later. Therefore, still there is some type of selfishness in what you try to think over. That is the third one is you try to donate. When you try to donate, you'll say, okay, when I donate, God might help me, God will do good to me, and still you have that selfishness saying that there is some expectation with you. Then the next one is arpana, you sacrifice, you serve, you give your offerings, you offer to God, your offerings to somebody with less expectation. That is called arpana. Samarpana, you give your mind, body, soul to somebody, the time and money to others. That is called sacrifice. Then when you do this type of sacrifice throughout your life, that is called you give your body, soul, time, everything to the society, and you lead a worthy and happy life. And when you do that, that is service. That is service to humanity. Service to society is service to God, and service that is God. It is not just going to a temple or not going to a church or not going to just Gurudwara. It is that when you do serve the society, when you serve the society with your utmost capacity, that is service to God, and that is God. And the sacrifice which comes from is only from a teacher. A teacher is the noblest profession, and you will be able to achieve that. And the teacher is one who is revered throughout this world. No other person is revered as much as a teacher. Your ambitions should be there, but that ambition should not be too high. Your desire, like Buddha said, desire is the root cause of sorrow. Leave thy desire, you will be happy. When you have excessive desire, that greed will lead to anger and frustration, and it will destroy yourself and it will ruin your life. See, this is what I try to tell all my teachers throughout my life in these 4 decades. And it is so, I feel so happy when I try to tell this. And when I say the different stages of a teacher in our career, I always used to put this slide, and please see this slide and see the 9 steps which you are going to see from evolving from teacher to God. And that you will feel really wonderful to say that you can achieve this, you can achieve whatever I am trying to present it now, Please see this carefully. The next step of a career in a teacher's life. What is that? I will just come back. I will be there in a minute. I am trying to search for a slide which is there, and maybe it will take just a few seconds. Just few seconds. Yeah, I got it. And this is what I try to always tell. Teacher is the first step. And when a teacher does research, he will become Adhyapak. When he becomes a professor, you get seniority, you become a Pradhyapak. Then if you can teach in number of ways, number of subjects, then you can be a Upadhyaya. If you teach, if you transform information to knowledge and skill, you will become Acharya. If you are senior, then you will become a Pracharya, like Dronacharya, Kripacharya. Then you will become finally a Guru when you develop the student holistically. And when you become a teacher for a long time, you will become a messenger of God. Jesus was a messenger. Muhammad was a messenger. Guru Nanak is a messenger. Krishna was a messenger. Rama is a messenger. Buddha is a messenger. Mahavira is a messenger. When you become very senior and then you keep on doing this, then you will be called as God. So everybody has a chance to become God. One or other day, the teacher has a more, the ability to go, to climb up in these steps and really become a God-like person. So my thing is, how do you cope up? How do you overcome? How do you actually climb up this ladder? I do not know. How will you do? I have been given 40 minutes to talk, and I have spoken, I think, more than 40 minutes, and I now will be able to very happy to answer all your questions, and also whatever you want, you can put it in the chat box, and I will be able to answer a few questions of yours, and I will be very glad that more and more questions are pointed, because there are so many questions, issues that are plaguing the university education system in this country, and thank you very much. And thank you, Berin. This is in your honor for your contribution to St. Joseph's College, for your long, very long stint in this, St. Joseph's College, which is my alma mater. And in your honor, I have delivered this lecture. They give God give you a long, healthy, and happy life.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. It is such an honor. Thank you.
Questions?
Good evening,
Yeah.
technical team. Am I audible?
Yeah. Audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening, respected academicians and my dear students. In these days of pandemic, which has caused enough disturbances in our academic calendar, we have had the privilege of listening to a very senior gentleman academician, the Vice Chancellor of one of the biggest federal universities of the world, the only Indian with a PhD in economics as well as information technology. We have had the privilege of listening to Dr. Venugopal for the past 45 minutes. In fact, Dr. Venugopal's speech as our resource person for today's webinar has cleared most of our doubts. On behalf of our principal, Reverend Dr. Victor Lobo SJ, Head of the Department of Sociology and Industrial Relations, Dr. Berin Locus, and all members of the organizing and technical team. Respected sir, I thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. As a distinguished alumni of our college, you have given a great speech, an inspiring speech. This is Anup Lal, Dean, Social Sciences, inviting the audience for the question answer session. I request my colleagues, Professor Maria and Professor Dadford, to conduct the open house. The open house shall commence now. Thank you.
Yeah, questions?
Yeah, Neeraj, can you read out the questions, please?
Yes, ma'am. 1 second. So the first question goes as follows. Do you foresee a time when teaching, learning, and evaluation will become automated?
There is only one answer. It is automatic in future. Technology is growing so rapidly that you have no alternative. There will be more of online, less of offline. Regular classes will be only the thing of a past. Because people will find that sitting at home, they can do many other things other than even learning effectively. Online examinations is already come. Most of the private universities are having online exams. So you cannot shy away from that. You have to have online exams, you have to have online teaching. And online result or online evaluation is already implemented in almost all the universities in the state. So how do you escape from online? You are going to be in virtual classroom. That is your own room. And you see the world in your own room. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Dafford, sir, will you be asking the next question?
Sir, is the online exam free of malpractices? How do you make sure that when I conduct an exam online, I can keep it free from malpractices? Because so far, if you're looking at online exams, we need to come to a campus to write an exam.
See, you might, now the tools have been much advanced using artificial intelligence. If you see a tool called ProctorU, which uses artificial intelligence even to track your eye movement. If I just make you to sit 3 feet away from the camera, they will be able to notice even what you talk, what you see, and what you write. And it is not going to be far away where you think if you are involved in malpractice, that is only a short-term vision and you will fail ultimately in your life. You might get few marks more, but definitely it will not help you in your career. So that element margin has to be given, because even if you conduct regular exam, there is copying, there is malpractice. But a good student will always become better with an online examination, and I'm very sure that is going to come sooner or later, because the world is moving towards online examinations.
Sir, is it by taking this opportunity, is it possible to make uniform calendar for throughout Karnataka?
Uniform calendar cannot be implemented because there will be so many problems and issues with each university. Maybe we can give them specific slots. For example, the classes can start from August 1st. The examination should be conducted within July 31st. This type of framework can be given for the entire country. For example, now we see the Supreme Court has given a direction that all engineering colleges should start by 1st of August. So a general direction has to be given. That is for the good of the entire country, because if the universities follow a calendar, a framework, that will be good for all, even for the migration of the student from one university to another university, and even for higher education across the world where they go to a different university. When this uniform calendar is followed, that will help the student in, getting ahead with their own higher studies as well as with respect to jobs.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Technical team,
Yes, sir.
please come on board. Technical team, please make sure that the questions are asked only by the concerned teachers in the organizing committee.
Yes, sir. I repeat, the instruction was given to all the participants that they shall ask the question through the chat. Please be sure to follow. Thank you.
I request the technical team to go to the chat box. There are a number of questions raised by students and teachers. Please take them one by one.
Okay. So can I ask you next question? I'm Maria.
Yeah, please do.
So this is from one biology lecturer. So according to her, online classes for biology theory is okay, but regarding practicals, online is not possible. How do we overcome this?
I never said that you should have online classes for entire semester. I said only that online classes can be a supplement to the regular classes and laboratories. Laboratories cannot be replaced. A physical teacher cannot be replaced by a virtual teacher. There has to be classes, contact classes, the labs have to be done, and that requires regular course and labs, at least for 60%. The 40% can be at home.
Okay.
You
Okay,
can
sir,
never
coming
replace
to,
a physical teacher, you can never replace a lab. You can have virtual labs to some extent.
Sir, this next question is with respect to students who are unable to access online education. There's a whole lot of students who can't afford to buy things like laptops. They are unable to access sufficient data and things like that. How does online education address these kinds of issues?
Necessity is the mother of invention. You just go and see every student possesses one mobile, and he possesses a mobile whether he will be able to come to the college or not, but he has a mobile. A mobile is sufficient to just attend an online classes, but my prescription is that relying entirely on online is not good. It is just for learning few things and try to get some information, and also you should not attend online classes continuously. It affects our eyes. So therefore, you must have intermittent online classes, and you cannot have 6 hours to 8 hours in a day. That is not good for health. And what I'm trying to tell you is, even if they do not have the means and facilities, I know in future where the connectivity is going to improve, the cost is going to come down, and definitely, mobile phones and iPads and notepads will be available, and we have to move towards them. I'm not telling that you overnight you can switch on from offline to online. It is not possible. For them, see, I always said, you conduct an online exam. Those students who are able to take, let them take. Other students can take regular examination. For that, we can always get this in a situation like a pandemic where we cannot come in large numbers. If one group takes online, we'll have two question papers of equal weightage and equal toughness. So the other people can come and take the exams in the college. We cannot forego regular classes and labs. We cannot rely completely on online teaching.
So the next question is with respect to online resources. How easily are these resources available? Is it possible for Bangalore University to make these online resources available to the affiliated colleges?
Now you are okay. Here, why did the UGC introduce MOOCs, SWAYAM, NPTEL? All these were not heard by many students till now. In the last 90 days, everybody knows this terminology. They know at least what is MOOCs, they know what is SWAYAM, they know what is NPTEL, and there are thousands of courses, self-learning courses, self-evaluation tools now, which tells you whether you have acquired knowledge or skill. I have already mentioned to you, degree is not the only measure of your success. Even without degree, you can always be successful. If you have knowledge and skill, degree is implicit. But when we are talking about the resources, these resources are going to become cheaper and cheaper. It is, in the next 3-4 years, 5G connections are going to invade the society. A 5G connection will be having a bandwidth of 1 Gbps. You know what is 1 Gbps? We are getting only 30-40 Mbps now. Then if you get 1 Gbps, 90% of this country is already connected. Now we are the 10% or 20% which is not connected. They will also fall in line. We are in the age of information. This information age is your food is information today. Therefore, people will definitely be able to spend on your gadgets, devices, and connectivity in years to come, and that will not be far off.
So the next question is with respect to distractions that are around for students while students use gadgets like phones. there are many ways in which students can get distracted. So how do you suggest ways in which students do not get distracted while using these online media?
Students online, I have seen when I take classes, I have already told you, bad students degenerate, good students become best. A good teacher finds very difficult to teach online, and therefore he has to put in more effort to deliver the same type of delivery which he is doing in regular classes. So it is how we have to make the student serious. That's why I said you should develop student holistically. I have given you the 7 sutras. You have to make them perform yoga. You have to make them meditate. You have to, get them involved in meditation. You have to do all this type of exercises so that they get attracted to it. I have always made my students, even postgraduate students, I made them to do yoga. I start the class with 5 minutes of meditation every time when I start a class. There is 5 minutes of meditation. Most of them have started practicing meditation. When the mind is controlled and the body is controlled, automatically the distraction will be less. That's why I have tried to introduce yoga in all the affiliated colleges of Bangalore University. And the second one, we have started Yoga University. The UGC has opened inter-university yoga in Bangalore University, which is the apex body for all yoga centers country. So you practice yoga, meditation, pranayama, and do a simple light exercise. Take good food, you will get better control over the student. That student should be bad. Therefore, the teachers are the model. If you are not able to inspire them, nobody will be able to inspire. And that is how we can bring back the students who have gone away, who have been distracted. And it is not different. The age of 18 to 22 is always like that. It is how many students you are going to make them fall in line and show them the road map, which is good for them. And that is your success. It is the teacher's responsibility. It is the teacher's duty the effort which you put. The more the effort, the more the dedication and commitment of the teacher, more students will fall in line and they will reach the path to success.
There is one question, Professor Wajid. Can you read?
Yeah, somebody asked me a question. Rural students do not have connectivity. Rural students do not have connectivity, but in the last 90 days of Bangalore University online education system, I saw more students joining from rural areas than in the urban areas. And there were many difficult challenges were there. Some people were on the rooftops, some people had climbed trees, some people had gone to the fields, but still I found that enthusiasm and seriousness among the rural students, though connectivity was poor, though they could not afford to have smartphones, but I see the seriousness in rural students than in the urban students. Please ask, you can ask questions or chat. I can see the messages and answer.
The technical team kindly raised the question posted by Dr. Syed Wajid and one student, Maha Muhammad Aslam. 2 relevant questions have been posted. Please read that out to the Honorable Vice Chancellor.
Or you can just send it on a message. I can see the message and answer.
Sir, Mr. Syed Wajid has asked, in this competitive world, how can one keep self calm and composed? At times, even you stay away from comparisons that society tries roping you in.
So, I am the example. You know how much I have suffered? I have been suspended in Bangalore University for 5 times. I have been suspended for 5 times. Every time I failed. Every time I had to become Vice Chancellor, they kept me under suspension for one or the other reason. I never got frustrated. The one thing which kept me calm and composed is that 7 golden principles and 5 undesirable habits which I said. If you follow that, you will lead a successful life. Calm and composed will come from yoga and meditation. Wajid, I have answered your question, very pertinent question.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, a student has asked how to motivate students for online classes.
The
How to motivate
you
students?
should not tire them by loading online classes as we have done in the last 90 days. In the last 3 months, we have been continuing. Students of 4th standard, 5th standard, nursery, 1st standard, they are all online. Their parents are open their mobile phones and showing it to their kids as to how to take online. That is not the way. We have been loaded with online classes. So the persuasion is when it is completely balanced, that means 20 to 30% of online and the rest 70 to 60% is regular classes, automatically they will be, most of the students will also come both for online as well as regular classes. But the situation is, now it is different. The situation is, in the initial stages, the number of students who are attending all classes was very high. But when the government said that there were little confusion about the classes, examination, then the attendance started falling down. Now again the student attendance has come up, but by the time we have already completed the portions. But I am very sure if you balance both online and regular classes, students will be interested both in online and regular classes, and that is the way to improve the online attendance. Moreover, you should not have continuous online classes. This is my humble suggestion to all the teachers. Do not engage the students continuously online. It is not good.
Thank you, sir. We have now reached the end of the time.
Some teachers have mind blocks with regard to yoga. So mind blocks to yoga, some teachers have mind blocks to yoga. See, what are we ultimately, trying to find in our life? Our life will exist only till our body is okay. For the body to be intact, the body to be healthy, it is already proved by science that yoga is necessary. I do not tell you, if you tell the yoga is just prescribing yoga classes regularly and seriously during a time, no. Even if you walk, that is yoga. Even if you talk, that is yoga. Even if you try to move your hands and legs in whatever direction you want, that is yoga. Even if you laugh for 5 minutes to 10 minutes a day, that is yoga. So don't, in the name of yoga, there is, I am not, telling yoga in a very strict sense of just you should put a mat and do. You must be doing some type of exercises in your life, which is very prescribed, like very scientifically in yoga, and that we call as yoga. You don't call it by that name, still you are very active in your life, you run, you play, that is yoga. It is not really linked to any religion. You don't have to say, oh, and then tell, oh, that is yoga. No, you can tell anything which you want and still be active in your life.
Mr. Neeraj?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is a question from a school principal. I'll just read that. That will be the last question if you are short of time. Honorable Vice Chancellor, this is a question raised by a school principal, Dr. Shakila Bala. Sir, what is the place of a teacher at present in this online season? And do the online really help teachers to assess students?
I have already mentioned in my lecture, a good student is become good, better, best and excellent. And a good teacher is putting more efforts to become better. And it is challenging for the good teacher to actually drive in the message to a good student. And the bad student switch on the audio and video and they keep dancing and they deteriorate. And a bad teacher, it is only just showing some screenshots and showing some video and he has no work to do and therefore he also deteriorates. Now, it is the duty of every teacher. It is a lifelong achievement. Teaching is not such an easy job. If you want to be a good teacher, you have to work very hard. It is not like a tahsildar. It is not like somebody who is going carrying some, shops or selling some vegetables and fruits. You must have your body, mind and soul, and the entire thing should be coherent for a good teacher to become to perform this task to deliver to a good student. For bad students, we will not be able to help anything. This online is not good for bad students. This online is bad for bad students.
Thank you, sir. We have now reached the end of the time. I request Berin ma'am to give the concluding address.
On behalf of our college, I would like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Venu Gopal, for taking your time. I mean, I know you're such a busy person, and yet you have made time for us. We are humbled and thankful so much. And when you see the questions and the comments that have come, people have found it very highly motivating stuff. So thank you once again, Dr. Venu Gopal.